Guys, welcome back. Let's go ahead and read our next book. This is the last book in this text set. Okay, so the last book in this set of historical fiction takes place in a quiet village in France. But we get clues from the beginning that there's something threatening in the air. So let's take a look at this spread with the dedication. So right here, this is the dedication that the author has written, but I want you to look at the picture, okay? You see that? Right there, okay? What do you notice that tells us all is not well? What do you notice in that photo? What do you see? See some soldiers over here. I see her face. I see this lady kind of putting her hand on her back, like trying to hurry her along. So, so the setting of this story is World War II in occupied France. That means France has been taken over by Nazi soldiers from Germany. Let's find out more by reading The Butterfly by Patricia Polacco. Okay, so Patricia Polacco wrote this book and illustrated it as well. The Butterfly by Patricia Polacco. Let me see if I can get myself over here. Scoot myself over a little bit. All right, there we go. It was unusually bright that night outside of Monique's small bedroom window in Choisy-le-Roi, just outside of Paris. The moon was so radiant it seemed almost festive. As Monique gazed up at it, she thought that the moon must not know that her village was occupied by Nazi troops. All of France was, for that matter. There was a terrible war raging in what to Monique seemed like most of the world. But this night, the moon seemed not to care. It pulled Pinoff, her cat, up next to her. Or no, not it. She pulled Pinoff, her cat, up next to her and hugged and kissed her goodnight, then drifted off to sleep. Monique didn't quite know why she woke up, but suddenly she saw a ghostly little figure sitting next to the window on the end of her bed. A girl about her own age. She was petting Pinoff. "Who are you?" Monique whispered. The ghost child wheeled and looked with sad eyes that seemed frightened, then spun and ran from the bedroom. Wow. It's kind of creepy. I wonder who that ghost is or was. Okay. The next morning at breakfast, Monique could hardly wait to talk to her mother about the ghost, but her mother seemed almost angry. It wasn't like Marcel Soliliage to be angry at anyone. It was only a dream, child. Do you hear? Only a dream. Now go to school. God knows how much longer you will have the privilege of going to school with the war. Her mother's voice trailed off. Monique couldn't wait to get to school so that she could tell her best friend Denise about the ghost. Since Monique was an only child, Denise was like a sister to her. On their way home from school that afternoon, Denise asked Monique, what did this ghost look like? She was dark, and had very sad eyes, Monique answered. Weren't you very, very frightened? Denise asked. At first, yes, but the longer I looked at her, a feel came over me, a feeling of fear for her, Monique answered. They stopped and peered into the front window of Monsieur Marc's candy shop. He waved them in as he always did. He loved the children in their neighborhood and always had small bits of brightly wrapped candies for them in his apron pocket. As the girls entered the store, they saw the most they saw that most of the jars that used to be filled with every kind of candy and confection were empty. The war. But Monsieur Marx had saved something for them. For sure, little Monique, Monsieur Marx cooed as he dropped a bright dot of sweetness into her hand. And one for you, ma petite, he said as the beautiful wrapped confection rolled into Denise's waiting hands. Monique and Denise unwrapped their candies and popped them into their mouths. But as they were walking away from the store, they suddenly saw tall boots coming toward them up the hill. What kind of person do you think Monsieur Marx is? This man right here. And how can you tell? Okay, think about that. You'll get to share it with me here in a little bit. All right, here we go. The tall, shining boots of marching Nazi soldiers, their heels clicked like gunshots along the cobblestone path. People froze and tried not to look at the soldiers. The girls wanted to run, but knew better. They had learned to chat and laugh as if they had no cares in the world. Are they looking at us? Monique asked breathlessly when they had gotten a distance away. Denise looked back. No, they're still marching. Then they heard loud yelling and glass breaking. They both wheeled and looked. To their horror, they saw Monsieur Marx being dragged from his shop by the Nazi soldiers. Schwein! Judenschwein! They heard the Nazis shout as they pushed Monsieur Marx to the ground. They watched the Nazis kick him hard in the ribs with those tall black boots. Monique covered her mouth to hold back a scream. Then a car drove up, and the Nazis threw Monsieur Marx into the back of it. Don't look for too long, Monique, Denise warned. If we do, they'll come for us next. The word Schwein, the Nazis are calling Monsieur Marx a pig because he's Jewish. The author could have shown the Nazis being cruel to anybody, to a stranger. Why do you think she chose to have them hurt Monsieur Marx instead? I wonder why they chose him of all people. Because to me, so far he seems pretty nice. So I wonder why they chose him. The girls were both sobbing by the time they ran up Rue de Bernard to Monique's mother's house. They knew it had happened before during these years of occupation, but never had they seen it. And to Monsieur Marx, why? Why, maman, did they do that to Monsieur Marx? Monique choked through sobs. The Nazis hate people like Monsieur Marx, ma chérie. It is so pointless and cruel. Her voice faded to a whisper. What do you mean, people like Monsieur Marx, maman? Monique asked again. You know, Monique, her mother answered. Jews. But Monsieur Marx is a Frenchman, Denise said. Marcel hugged them both. The Nazis can't be here forever, my sweet children. Mother France has been here for centuries. They, for a short, terrible time. Marcel had tears in her eyes. Now I'll fix you some soothing tea. Monsieur Marx would not want either of you to worry or be sad. Madame! A voice called from the front door. It was Pere Voillard, their priest from Saint-Germain-des-Prés. He rushed in. "Have you heard what's happened to Monsieur Marx?" Marcel motioned to him to come into the other room, and they closed the door. Monique was used to her mother having hushed conversations in the living room, especially since the war. Many nights passed, and Monique didn't see the little ghost again. But last night Monique awoke with a start to see her little ghost sitting on the window seat. This time it was holding Pinoff. Monique thought, "This is no dream. I can hear Pinoff purring." "I see you there," Monique whispered. The little ghost sprang to her feet, but Monique stopped her from running away this time. Don't be afraid. It's all right for you to be here." The little ghost with sad eyes sat down and said nothing. "What is your name? Where do you come from?" Monique asked. The girl just sat for a long time holding on tidily to Pinoff. "I once had a cat just like this one," she finally said. "Her name is Pinoff. What is yours?" Monique sat down by her. "My name is Severin. Severin." "Where do you live?" Monique whispered. "I have lived in many places since the war," the ghostly Severin answered. "Where do you live now? Your parents must miss you, especially in the middle of the night like this." The girl didn't answer. "Where do you live?" Monique insisted. "Here!" Severine finally said. "Here?" Monique said with such surprise and so loudly that it might have awakened the whole neighborhood. "But I live here." Hmm. Severin motioned to follow. Severin motioned to Monique to follow her. They both tiptoed down the stairs and crept into the day room. There Monique saw the rug pulled back and what looked like a door in the floor. Oh my gosh. What? Okay. Severin pulled up the door. Here's the door, you guys. See it? Severin pulled up the door, and they both climbed down a very narrow set of stairs into a part of the cellar that Monique didn't even know existed. The walls were scraped clean, and there was a small table with a tiny tray and supper dishes on it. Monique could see another small room with cots. It looked like people were sleeping on them. "My mother and father and I have been here for a very long time," Severin whispered. "We're being hunted by the Nazis, you know. We are Jews. There are many of us hiding all over France. But how have you stayed here without my maman knowing?" "Oh, Madame Soliage? She knows. We aren't the only ones that she has helped." How could this have happened in her own home and her mother never said a word to her about it? "Your mother made me promise that I would never come to your room again while you were there." "I don't understand." "It puts you in grave danger to know about me. She is protecting you." Monique started to say more, but it sounded like footsteps echoing upstairs. Could Marcel have heard them? "Vite, vite, Monique." Severine pushed her up out of the hidden room. But when will I see you again?" Monique whispered as the door closed over the top of her new friend. What? Wow. Okay, so talk about, I want you to, you're going to type this in in a minute, talk about some ways in which Monique is in danger. Think about that. What are some ways so far that you know that she's in danger? There's a war going on. There's a lot of dangers that come along with there being a war in the same town where you live. And now The story has become a little more complex now that we know that somebody's hiding in her house and she didn't even know it. Whoa. Okay, so let's continue reading on. The next morning at breakfast, Monique didn't know what to say to her mother. Somehow, she seemed mysterious. But she chatted to Monique cheerfully as always. Go to your garden, my sweet child, and cut some of your beautiful flowers for our table, won't you? So why in this moment, why do you think her mother seems mysterious to Monique now? Why did she say that? Why is it a mystery? Why is her mother mysterious? Okay. Monique skipped out of the kitchen doors into her garden with Pinoff trotting after her. Pinoff was playing with the petals of the flowers as Monique cut them and put them into the basket, when all at once the cat crouched and made herself flat against the ground. Her eyes were ablaze. When Monique saw why, a papillon, a butterfly, fluttering from flower to flower, as it landed on a bright blue iris near the wall, Monique gathered Pinoff into her lap. No, ma petite, she looked. No, no, ma petite, just look. See how beautiful? They both sat quietly as they watched the butterfly together. Suddenly the air grew still and heavy. The birds in the garden stopped singing. Panoff hid herself in the folds of Monique's apron. Monique looked over the wall and saw tall, shiny boots. Her heart leaped into her chest. The three Nazi soldiers glared at her. One reached over the wall and took the butterfly in his leather-covered fist. Jolie n'est-ce pas? He grinned at Monique, then squeezed his fist. The other tall boots laughed. They mumbled something and walked away. So Jolene est Sapaz, that means pretty, isn't it? So why do you think the Nazi crushed the beautiful butterfly? And why did seeing that give Monique such a better understanding of what was going on? Hmm. That wasn't very nice that he did that, was it? Her and the cat were admiring, the beautiful butterfly. And he just grabbed it like this. You see his fist on this photo over here, on this illustration. He just grabbed it and killed it. Ruined the moment for her. Rude, right? Okay, here's the next picture. Maman! Maman! Tall boots! Monique shrieked as she ran into the house and blurted out what had happened in the garden. Sacre bleu! Those monsters! Her mother grumbled as she held her child as close as she could. Maman! Monique finally sobbed. Did they do to Monsieur Marx what they did to the butterfly? Her mother did not answer. She rocked Monique gently and stared out of the window. But Monique had her answer. Now she understood the sadness um, in Severin's eyes, the fear that was in the eyes of her neighbors and the friends whenever the Nazi soldiers came close. She knew now she had a she had to protect her friend. At close cost, she had to keep the secret that lived in her basement. Okay. From that time on, Severin came to Monique's room as often as she could without waking her own parents or Monique's mother. Marcel could never know. When the girls were together, they played dress up and had midnight tea parties. They laughed and giggled, and told each other their dreams. Monique collected things from the outside world for Severin to see and feel and touch. What did you bring me tonight? Severin asked softly one night. Monique reached into a small cloth bag and sprinkled rich black earth into Severin's hands. This smells like the air outside, Monique told her. Then she handed Severin a bright flower from her garden. This will be your sunshine. And now close your eyes. Monique slowly opened her cupped hands. Look, it was a glorious butterfly, a papillon. Severin whispered in wonder. Monique put the butterfly near Severin's cheek. Let its wings flutter, Monique whispered. Severin caught her breath and smiled. Like the kiss of an angel, Monique said softly. All of a sudden, they looked up. For what reason, who knows? They saw Monsieur Lendormy, the man next door, looking right at them from his window across the courtyard. Oh no. Monique's heart leaped in her chest. Severin slid down onto the window sills so that Monsieur Ladorme um, couldn't see her. The girls looked at each other in sheer terror. They knew they had to tell Marcel. They ran to her room and awoke her. She was startled to see the two of them together. When they told her about their secret meeting and Monsieur Ladorme, Marcel sank to her knees in front of them. Mon Dieu, she said, mourning as she rocked with fear. Are you angry, Madame Soliage? Severine asked as she began to cry. So let's talk about why the girls are so afraid at this point in the story. I want you to think about why they're afraid, what caused them to be afraid. We don't really know who this Monsieur Lendorme guy is, but who might he be and why would they be so afraid that someone out there has seen them? Okay. Oh no, ma petite. No, of course I'm not angry. You are a little girl. You didn't ask for this war or to be kept in my cellar. You needed to play. Children need other children. Marcel smoothed her hair, but you are no longer safe here, my dear. We must leave home together. Marcel began to pull on her clothes. We need to get you and your family out of the country. Let me see. Pere Voliard did take your parents to the next refuge. You will travel with Monique and me. Yes, hurry, petites. Put as many clothes as you can. Dress in layers. We can't carry valises, or we will attract attention. Okay. Okay. The girls watched as Marcel Pere Voliard and Severin's parents dug holes in the cellar floor and buried everything that would look like someone had lived there. Then it was time for them all to leave. Her parents came out dressed as a nun and priest. They both cried as they held Severin and said their goodbyes. They, they would next meet in a village in southern France near the Swiss border. God be with us, God be with us this night. Pere Voliard prayed. Adonai Yehe Etanu Hallelu. Hallelujah, sorry. Hallelujah. Severin's father prayed as he cried, God will be with us tonight. It seemed that Monique, Severin, and Marcel had walked for miles in the darkness, through back alleys, avoiding street lamps, taking great care to be as quiet as it was possible to be. With the first light of dawn, excuse me, they had reached the countryside. They stopped to rest under a grove of trees close to their close to their rendezvous with the people who would take Severin to her parents. Marcel had just given the girls some bread and cheese when she pulled them both into a ditch. She motioned for them to be still and quiet. A patrol car full of Nazi soldiers slowly drove by on the country road. After the car passed, the three sat without speaking. So, writers build tension in stories by putting characters in danger and making us wonder what's going to happen next. I want you to think about how this author is keeping us on the edge of our seats, and making us wonder what's going to happen um, in this part of the story. What is keeping you at the edge of your seat right now? What are you wondering right now? What are your concerns for this family? Your thoughts, your emotions. What are you feeling right now? Okay. Finally, another car came driving slowly down the road. It stopped by the bridge a few hundred feet away and turned its headlights on and off 3 times. "It's time, my precious child," Marcel whispered as she pushed Severin out of the ditch and they ran toward the car. "These people will help you, and your maman and papa." At the car, Monique took something from the pouch she'd been carrying. It was Pinoff. "Take her, Severin," Monique whispered. Tears welled up in Severine's eyes. She folded Pinoff into her sweater, then reached into her pocket and pulled out a fine gold chain on which hung a gold star of David. "Remember me, Monique." Oh, they each gave each other a gift. Quickly, She put it into her pocket, pulled herself to her feet, slipped into the line that was pushing through the checkpoint, and was swept with them into a shabby coach car. The tall boots were shouting at everyone. What if they searched her and found the necklace? And where was her maman? She could see through the window of her train car people standing on the platform waiting to catch the train going in the opposite direction. Had her mother been pushed into that line instead of onto this train? She tried to see through her own tears to find her mother's face when she saw a girl alone. She looked thin and sad, very sad, like Severine. On the girl's coat was a yellow star of David. Was it Severine? No, she could see now. It wasn't Severine, but it could have been. Monique held Severine's necklace tight in her pocket. "Oh, maman, maman, where are you?" she cried as the train lurched away. Just a few more pages. The train rode to a noisy stop, St. George's. The sign read, Oh, only 2 kilometers from Choisy-le-Roi from home. Monique walked through the alleys and back streets that only hours before she, Sabrina, and Maman had passed. "Oh, Maman!" she cried as she walked. When Monique finally saw the familiar threshold of her front door, she pushed it open and climbed the stairs. She could still smell her mother's scent in the air. She was tired, so tired. She threw herself across her bed and fell into a deep sleep. Then she dreamed of her mother's voice. "Ma chérie, ma petite," the voice said. She dreamt a cool hand crossed her brow. It seemed so real. When she opened her eyes, she saw that the hand was real. The voice was real. It was her maman. "Oh, my sweet, brave little girl," her mother cried as they rocked in each other's arms. "I just knew that I would find you here." Aw, so sweet. 1 week passed too. Monique tried to imagine that Séverine and her maman and papa, and of course Pinoff, were safe. Then the tall boots would march by her front gate, reminding her of how hopeless it seemed. If only she had a message from Séverine, a sign, something. And then, one day, Monique and Marcel were planting next year's bulbs in the garden when Marcel suddenly gasped. Regarde! Monique looked. Monique, look! Her mother pointed at the bleak sky above them. A butterfly fluttering down into the garden, and another, and another. They both watched as butterflies started to land on the dry stalks of faded flowers. First there were 3, then 10, then 20, and 30. Neighbors came out of their cottages and peered over the wall in wonder. It's a sign, Maman, a miracle. Séverine sent them. I know it. She and her parents are safe. Monique held up her hand, and a butterfly fluttered and landed on her finger. She took it to her cheek. Its wings fluttered. A kiss, Monique said softly. All right, that's the end of the butterfly. So, why do you think the story ends with the images of butterflies? Why do you think the author chose to do that? What do those butterflies stand for, or what are they a symbol of? I want you to think about that one. That one's a little more like deep thinking here. So, what do you think those butterflies symbolize in the story? All right, you guys, thank you guys for listening. I know this one was much longer than the other 4, but I don't think any of our other stories will be this long. But this was a fantastic book. Thank you for listening. I love you all, and I will see you soon. Bye, guys.